Captain Kim Juno pressed his hand against the cold metal wall of his ship as it shook from the asteroid field around them. His exploration vessel Harmony was not the biggest ship Earth had ever built, but it was fast and strong. They had been traveling for 3 weeks now, looking for new worlds that humans could visit. "Sir, there is something strange here," said Parkana from her seat at the communication desk. Her fingers moved quickly over the bright buttons and screens in front of her. "The computers are showing me something that should not be here." Juno walked over to look at her screen. His first officer, Lee Minho, came with him. Both men had been exploring space for many years, but they had never seen anything like this before. "What kind of strange?" Juno asked. Hannah pointed at the screen where dots of light were moving in patterns. "There is a huge space station hiding behind that big asteroid. It is much bigger than anything we have ever built. And sir, it is sending out signals." "Signals?" Minho stepped closer. "What kind of signals?" "That is the strange part," Hannah said, her voice getting excited. "The signals are coming from many different sources. I can hear at least 12 different types of languages, but none of them sound human." Juno felt his heart start beating faster. In the 50 years since humans had learned to travel faster than light, they had visited many worlds. Most were empty. A few had simple animals or plants, but they had never found other intelligent life like themselves. "Can you put the signals on the main screen?" he asked. "I will try, sir." The big screen at the front of the bridge flickered and then showed something that made everyone stop breathing. It was a huge room filled with creatures that looked like nothing from Earth. One looked like it was made of blue crystal and sparkled when it moved. Another had green skin and too many arms. A third looked like a giant insect but wore clothes, like a person. The crystal creature spoke first, and somehow the ship's computer translated its words into human language. "Human ship, you are not allowed in this space. Go back to where you came from right now." Juno stepped forward, even though he knew the creatures could not see him yet. "This is Captain Kim Juno of the Earth ship Harmony. We are explorers from the planet Earth. We did not know anyone else was here. We are sorry if we have done something wrong." A tall creature with blue skin and 4 eyes looked angry. "Earth," it said like the word tasted bad. "Yes, we know about your kind. You are the dangerous ones. Your people grow too fast and change too quickly. That is why we never told you about us." Dr. Yoon Sola, who studied alien life, was working fast at her computer station. She had learned how to break into other computer systems when she was young, and now she was using that skill to listen to the creatures' private talks. "Captain," she whispered, so only he could hear, "I am hearing their secret messages. They are talking about something called the Devourers. It sounds like a very dangerous enemy that is coming from outside our galaxy. And sir, their plan is to run away and leave us behind." The creature on the screen was still talking. "Your species is too young and too wild. You do not understand the dangers that exist in space. It is better if you stay in your small part of the galaxy." "What dangers?" Juno asked, but the screen went black. The creatures had ended their talk. Minho looked out the window of their ship. In the distance, they could see other ships moving. These ships looked much more advanced than anything humans had built. They were all heading in the same direction, toward the center of the galaxy. "They are running away from something," Minho said quietly. Sola looked up from her computer with fear in her eyes. "Captain, I heard more of their secret talks. These devourers destroy entire solar systems. They eat planets and stars and everything living on them. The creatures in that council have been planning to run away to the center of the galaxy, where they think it will be safer. And they are leaving us here to face this threat alone," Juno said, feeling anger start to grow in his chest. "Sir," Hannah called out, "I am getting reports from our other ships. They are all seeing the same thing. Advanced alien ships heading away from the outer parts of the galaxy. And sir, Some of our deep space sensors are picking up something else. What? Solar? Systems on the edge of the galaxy are going dark. Their suns are just disappearing. The bridge became very quiet. Everyone understood what this meant. Something terrible was coming toward them, and the only other intelligent life they had ever found was running away without even warning them. How long do we have? Juno asked. Sola looked at her readings, based on the pattern of disappearing stars, maybe 6 months before whatever this is reaches human space. Juno stood up straight and looked at his crew. These were good people who had chosen to explore the unknown parts of space. They had families back on Earth, dreams for the future, and now they faced something that scared creatures with technology, far beyond anything humans possessed. Send a message to Earth Command, he ordered. Tell them what we have learned, and tell them that while the galaxy runs away, humanity needs to get ready to fight. Dr. Han Junho had not slept for 3 days. He stood in front of the huge window of the research station New Seoul and watched the stars. But something was wrong with those stars. Every few hours, another one would just disappear, like someone was turning off lights one by one. Doctor, you need to see this, called his assistant, Dr. Kim Mingi, from across the laboratory. She was pointing at a screen that showed a map of their galaxy. Red dots marked the places where stars had gone dark. Han walked over and looked at the pattern. They are moving in a straight line, toward us, he said quietly. Whatever is doing this, it is not random. It has a plan. Commander Choi Rena entered the laboratory. She was a soldier, not a scientist, but she had been learning fast since the crisis began. Doctor, I just got word from Earth Command. Admiral Kang wants to speak with you right now. The holographic communicator activated, and Admiral Kang Doyan appeared in the room like a ghost made of light. His face looked tired, but his eyes were sharp and focused. Dr. Han, the Admiral said, what do we know about these devourers? Han pulled up his research on the main screen. Admiral, I have been studying the data from the Alien Council's computers that Dr. Sola managed to access. These devourers are not just destroyers. They are much worse than that. Explain. Every solar system they attack follows the same pattern. First, they surround the system with their ships. Then, they use some kind of technology to scan every planet, every moon, every living thing. They copy all the information about the technology and biology of that system. Only after they have learned everything do they destroy it completely. Admiral Kang was quiet for a moment. They are collecting knowledge. Yes, sir. And they have been doing this for a very long time. They know how to fight every type of technology they have encountered. They know the weaknesses of every species they have faced. Commander Choi stepped forward. But sir, that means they have never encountered humans. They do not know our weaknesses because we have never fought them. That is correct, Han said, getting excited. But it also means they do not know our strengths. On the screen behind them, they could see ships moving through space. But these were not the advanced alien ships running toward the galaxy center. These were human ships, and they were moving in the opposite direction, toward the danger. Admiral, Han continued, the Alien Council sees these devourers as an unstoppable force, but I think they are wrong. Every system has weaknesses. Every enemy can be defeated if you understand how they work. Admiral Kong smiled for the first time in days. What do you need, Doctor? I need to study them up close. I need samples of their technology, recordings of their attacks, anything that can help us understand how they think and fight. That is very dangerous, Commander Choi said. The Alien Council has been running away from these things for months. They have technology much better than ours, and they are too scared to fight. Maybe that is their problem, said Engineer Shinhaun, who had been listening quietly from her workstation. They have been comfortable for too long. They have forgotten how to adapt when things get bad. She turned to face the others. Humans are good at adapting. When we face a problem we cannot solve, we try different approaches until something works. We do not give up easily, Han nodded. She is right. The alien council looks at the devourers and sees only death. But when I look at the data, I see patterns. Patterns can be understood, and if something can be understood, it can be defeated. Admiral Kong looked at the reports coming in from across human space. The council species are abandoning their outer colonies. Billions of innocent people are being left behind to die, but our ships are moving in to help them. Why are we doing that? Commander Choi asked. It puts our people in more danger. Because, the Admiral said, those refugees have knowledge we need. They have seen how the devourers fight, and maybe, if we save them, they will help us fight back. Through the station's communication system, they could hear reports from human ships near the battle zones. Captain Park, Jaewon's voice came through. Clearly, we found survivors from the Kepler system. They are terrified, but they are talking. The devourers use some kind of quantum communication to coordinate their attacks across light years of space instantly. Quantum communication, Han repeated, his mind already working on the problem. If they use quantum entanglement to coordinate, then maybe we can find a way to disrupt that coordination. Engineer Shin looked up from her computer. If we could break their ability to work together, they would become just individual ships, instead of one big, coordinated fleet. Admiral Kong stood up straighter. How long do we have to figure this out? Han looked at his calculations. Based on their current speed of advance, maybe 4 months before they reach the outer human colonies. 6 months before they reach Earth. Then we have 6 months to do something no other species in the galaxy has managed to do. The Admiral said we have 6 months to find a way to fight the impossible. Commander Choi checked her military reports. Sir, we have 17 ships already in the danger zone, studying the enemy and rescuing survivors. They are all volunteers. Admiral Kong nodded with pride. Of course they are. When has humanity ever backed down from a challenge? Outside the station, more human ships could be seen heading toward the approaching darkness, carrying scientists, soldiers, and engineers who refused to accept that some problems could not be solved. Captain Lin Juan carefully moved his salvage ship through the floating pieces of what used to be a beautiful world. Kepler 438b had been home to millions of people just 2 weeks ago. Now it was nothing but broken metal and dead rocks spinning in the darkness of space. Be careful, he told his crew over the ship's communication system. Some of these pieces might still be dangerous. His sensor operator, Nam Yoonji, was staring at her screen with wide eyes. Captain, I am reading something strange. 2 kilometers away from us, there is a piece of one of those devourer ships. And sir, it is still alive. Still alive. Jiwon moved to look at her screen. Are you sure? Yes, sir. It has a heartbeat. I can see it pulsing with some kind of energy. Doctor? Sungmin Seo, who studied how living things worked with technology, almost jumped out of her chair. Captain, we have to get a sample of that. If we can understand how their ships are alive, maybe we can find a way to stop them. It took 4 hours of careful work to cut a small piece from the devourer's ship fragment. The whole time, Jiwon worried that it might suddenly come alive and attack them. But the piece seemed to be sleeping, or maybe dying. Back in the ship's small laboratory, Dr. Song worked with tools that could look at things smaller than atoms. What she found made her heart race with excitement. Captain, you have to see this, she called out. This is not just a ship. It is more like a living creature that has been changed into a machine. But the most important thing is how it talks to other ships. What do you mean? Jawan asked. Every cell in this creature is connected to every other devourer through something called quantum entanglement. Imagine if every person on Earth could talk to every other person instantly, no matter how far apart they were. That is how the devourers work together. She showed him pictures on her computer screen. Look at this. These are quantum threads that connect this piece to the rest of their fleet. Even though the main ship is destroyed, this piece is still trying to talk to the others. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Engineer Jang Hoon-woo stood in the middle of the biggest construction project in human history. In the desert, thousands of workers were building something that had never been built before. "How long until it is ready?" asked the work supervisor. "If Dr. Song is right about the quantum connections," Jang said, wiping sweat from his face, "we need to build machines that can break those connections. Cut the quantum threads, and each Devourer ship becomes just one ship instead of part of a huge coordinated army. Can it work?" "I do not know," Jang said honestly. "We are trying to do something that the smartest people in the galaxy say is impossible. But humans have done impossible things before. All across human space, ships were bringing back strange news. The Devourers were not just destroying everything they found. They were also doing something else." Admiral Kong listened to reports from his commanders. "What do you mean they are recruiting?" Commander Choi looked at her notes. "Sir, our ships have rescued people from 17 different alien species. All of them tell the same story. The Devourers do not just kill everyone. Sometimes they give people a choice: join them or die. And some people join them." "Yes, sir. But here is the interesting part. The people who join them do not seem happy about it. The refugees say their friends and family who joined the Devourers looked scared and confused, like they were not in control of their own minds anymore." Dr. Han, joining the meeting by holographic communication, added more information. "Admiral, I have been studying the refugee reports. I think the Devourers use their quantum connection technology to control the minds of people who join them. They become part of the hive mind." "A hive mind?" Admiral Kong repeated. "So every Devourer, whether born that way or recruited, thinks the same thoughts and follows the same plan." "Exactly. But sir, that might be their weakness. If every bee in a beehive thinks exactly the same way, they cannot adapt when something unexpected happens." On the view screen, they could see human ships spread out across the outer edge of the galaxy. Unlike the orderly retreat of the Alien Council, humans were everywhere at once. Some ships were fighting small Devourer scout groups. Others were rescuing refugees. Still others were studying captured Devourer technology. "Status report on our new allies," Admiral Kong ordered. Commander Choi smiled. "The Thakari people have given us their shield technology. It is much better than ours. The Veloci have sensors that can see Devourer ships from very far away. And the Nexari want revenge because the Devourers destroyed their homeworld. They have been teaching our soldiers new fighting techniques, and our own people. 17 human colonies have volunteered to be evacuation centers for refugees. Every major university is working on the Quantum Disruptor project. And sir, we have over 300 volunteer ships heading toward the main Devourer fleet to study them." Through the communication system, Captain Kim Juno's voice came from the front lines. "Admiral, we can see them now. The main Devourer fleet is huge. There are thousands of ships, and they are all heading straight for Earth. Estimated arrival time is 72 hours. Admiral Kong stood up and looked at the star map showing the approaching enemy. "Then it is time to see if our crazy plan can work. Send the message to all ships. Operation Wildcard begins now." Across human space, ships began moving into position for the most important battle in human history. Admiral Kang stood on the bridge of his big warship Incheon Rising and looked out at space around Earth's moon. What he saw made him feel both proud and scared at the same time. Hundreds of human ships floated in formation, waiting for the biggest fight of their lives. But coming toward them was something much worse. The Devourer fleet looked like a dark cloud that was eating the stars. There were so many enemy ships that they blocked out whole parts of the sky. Each ship was alive, pulsing with a sick green light, and they were all moving together like one giant creature. "Sir," said Communications Officer Park Jisoo, "we just got a final message from the Alien Council. They are saying goodbye to us. They think we will all be dead in 6 hours." Lieutenant Colonel Oh Sung-min, who commanded Earth's Space Marines, checked his weapons and laughed. 6 hours. That hurts my feelings. I think we can last at least 12 hours. Other soldiers on the bridge laughed too, even though they were all scared. This was how humans acted when things looked hopeless. They made jokes and kept fighting. All quantum disruptor weapons are ready, reported Chief Engineer Basoyam. Every allied ship says they are ready to fight. The Devourer ships hit them like a giant wave. Each enemy's ship was as big as a city, covered in weapons that shot beams of death. But, instead of the easy victory they expected, the Devourers found something they had never seen before. Captain Quan Minseok flew his small fighter ship between the huge enemy vessels. His squadron moved in patterns that made no sense to anyone watching. They keep trying to guess where we will go next, he reported over the radio. But we are not following any plan, they understand. This was the human advantage. Every other species the Devourers had fought used logical military tactics. They moved their ships in formations that made sense, and followed strategies that could be predicted. But humans were different. When Captain Quan saw a gap between two enemy ships, he flew through it just because it looked fun. When his wingmen saw the enemy, expecting them to retreat, she attacked instead. On the moon's surface, Colonel Moon Jianyang led ground troops against Devourer soldiers that had landed. The enemy expected her to fight like a normal army, but she had learned from Earth's long history of wars. They keep setting up their weapons in places where our tanks should attack, she radioed to her soldiers. So we are not using tanks. Use the tunnels under the lunar colonies. Hit them from places they do not expect, then run away before they can fight back. Her troops used homemade bombs and clever tricks. They would pretend to run away, leading Devourer soldiers into traps. They hid in places the enemy did not think to look. The Devourers had fought many wars, but they had never fought an enemy that refused to follow the rules of warfare. The biggest moment came when Engineer Jang Hoonwoo activated the quantum disruptors from his control room on Earth. All across the battle, huge machines that had been hidden on asteroids and moons suddenly turned on. It is working, shouted Dr. Song Minseo from her research station. The Devourer ships are losing their coordination. For a few wonderful minutes, it looked like the human plan would succeed. The perfect teamwork of the Devourer fleet broke apart. Individual ships began moving in confused patterns, cut off from their hive mind. But the Devourers were not stupid. They had been conquering galaxies for thousands of years. Within an hour, they found a way to reconnect using shorter-range quantum links. Their ships began working together again, but now they were angry. All human ships, Admiral Kang announced, over the communication system. This is our moment. Everything we have built, everything we have learned, comes down to the next few hours. Show the galaxy what it means to never give up. The battle became more intense. Human ships that should have been destroyed kept fighting even when they were badly damaged. Soldiers who should have surrendered found new ways to hurt the enemy. Engineers kept fixing broken weapons even while enemy fire exploded around them. Captain Lim Guan's salvage ship had been turned into a fighting vessel. His crew used their knowledge of how to take apart wrecked ships to figure out where Devourer vessels were weakest. Aimed for the quantum connection nodes, he told other human ships. If we can damage enough of them, they cannot coordinate their attacks. Dr. Yoon Sola, now working on the main command ship, made an important discovery while studying captured Devourer technology. Admiral, she said excitedly, I do not think the Devourers are evil conquerors. I think they are prisoners. What? Do you mean? Each Devourer ship contains thousands of individual consciousness that have been forced to work together. They are not one species. They are many species that have been captured and controlled by something else. Admiral Kang understood immediately. Then we are not just fighting for Earth. We are fighting to free everyone the Devourers have enslaved. This changed everything. Instead of just trying to survive, humanity now had a new goal. They were not just defending their home. They were trying to save everyone who had ever been captured by this terrible enemy. The battle continued to rage around Earth, but now humans fought with a new purpose. They were no longer the last hope of one species. They had become the liberators of the galaxy. The biggest and most terrifying thing anyone had ever seen came out of the Devourer fleet like a nightmare made real. It was a ship the size of a small moon, but it was alive. Its surface moved like skin, covered in glowing veins that pulsed with evil thoughts. This was the Overmind, the thing that controlled every Devourer in the galaxy. Dr. Yoon Sola sat at her computer on Admiral Kong's command ship, studying the alien brain tissue they had captured weeks ago. Her hands shook as she made the most important discovery of her life. "Admiral," she said, her voice filled with excitement and horror. "The Overmind is not just controlling the other Devourers, it is holding them prisoner. Every creature in that fleet was once free, but the Overmind captured their minds and made them slaves." Admiral Kang looked at the massive enemy ship through his view screen. "Are you saying all those Devourers are victims?" "Yes, sir. They are being forced to attack us against their will. The Overmind has been collecting intelligent species for thousands of years, adding their knowledge and bodies to its army. This changed everything. Instead of fighting to destroy an evil enemy, they were now fighting to save countless prisoners who had been enslaved for centuries." Admiral Kong made the decision that would make humanity famous throughout the galaxy. "We are not going to destroy them. We are going to set them free." All around Earth, human and alien ships formed a protective circle around the huge quantum weapon that engineer Zhang Hanwu had built in the asteroid belt. This was not like the smaller disruptors they had used before. This machine could rewrite the quantum connections that held minds prisoner. But first, they had to create a path through the Overmind's defenses. Captain Kim Juno piloted the lead, attack ship straight toward the massive enemy vessel. "We need to damage its neural networks so the quantum pulse can reach the central brain," he told his squadron. The battle that followed was the most intense fighting humans had ever seen. The Overmind's surface was covered with weapons that shot beams of pure energy. Defending it were thousands of enslaved Devourer ships, forced to protect their own prison. Captain Kwon Min-seok led fighter squadrons that danced between the giant tentacles reaching out from the Overmind's surface. "It is trying to grab our ships," he reported. "I think it wants to capture us alive and add us to its collection on the Overmind's surface." Colonel Lee Jae-in led boarding parties that fought desperate battles inside living tunnels that tried to crush them. The walls around them pulsed like a heartbeat, and they could hear the voices of imprisoned minds, crying for help. "Keep moving toward the central brain," he ordered his soldiers. "Do not let it trap you in its mental networks." For 18 hours, the battle raged. Human ships held their formation around the quantum weapon while fighting off attacks from all sides. Many ships were destroyed, and many brave people died, but they never gave up. Finally, engineer Zhang Haiyanwu's voice came over the communication system. "Quantum liberation device is ready to fire. All ships, get clear of the target area." The weapon fired with a flash of light that could be seen from Earth. The quantum pulse raced across space and hit the Overmind's central brain. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, across the entire battlefield, something beautiful occurred. The Devourer ships suddenly stopped attacking. The enslaved creatures inside them were free for the first time in centuries, able to think their own thoughts and make their own choices. Many of the freed aliens immediately turned their weapons on the Overmind that had held them prisoner. Others simply flew away as fast as they could, finally able to escape. Some approached the human fleet, curious about the species that had given them their freedom. The Overmind itself began to break apart, as the minds it had enslaved for so long rejected its control. What had once been the most feared weapon in the galaxy became just a dying creature, alone for the first time in thousands of years. Captain Kim Juno found himself speaking not just to humanity, but to every species in the galaxy that was watching this impossible victory. The Galactic Council saw these creatures coming and chose to run away. We saw the same threat and chose to understand it. That understanding led us to free not just ourselves, but everyone who had been enslaved. This is what humanity offers to the galaxy. We refuse to believe that any problem cannot be solved. 6 months later, representatives from across the galaxy met on Earth for the first time. The old alien council, embarrassed by their cowardice, asked if they could join the new alliance that humanity had created. Admiral Kong, now serving as Earth's ambassador to the galaxy, spoke to the gathered aliens. We did not save everyone through better weapons or ancient wisdom. We did it by refusing to give up and by finding solutions where others saw only problems. The universe is huge and full of dangers we have not even imagined yet. But whatever comes next, we will face it together. As the great meeting ended, Earth's long-range sensors detected new signals from beyond their galaxy. These were not threats, but calls for help from other civilizations facing their own impossible enemies. Captain Parkana, now commanding the exploration ship New Horizon, smiled as she prepared to leave Earth. Looks like the galaxy needs humanity. After all, the ship launched toward the unknown, carrying the message that no enemy was too strong and no problem was too big for people who refused to surrender.